Hello everyone, you are on the Artefacto channel, where renowned artists showcase their skills and share secrets with those who want to improve their painting ability. My name is Nicholas Tobias. I've been teaching watercolor for many years, and I suggest we dive into the process of watercolor painting and explore new facets of creativity.
Like that. Okay, so that might be all right. Um, now we can use this blue that we've mixed, and then we come in and we just pop the blue in. Now I'm just kissing the paper. I'm not pressing hard. I'm just really trying to get in some of these nice blue moments. Not everywhere. Um, and you can start sort of thinking about the edge of these clouds and stuff, but um, we also don't want to spend too much time on the sky because well, this painting's not about that, but also you don't want to make the sky too busy. It just needs to be sort of something that you've put in and you're sort of happy with, but um, it shouldn't dominate. Okay, so I haven't gone back in with my water. I've just gone back with more cobalt blue into that mix. It's a little bit darker, so maybe I can make the top bit a little bit darker. So there's still not too much water on my brush. I've used it all on here and I haven't gone back into the water. So this I know is thicker. And if it's thicker, that means you can go into the top bit and it's not gonna cauliflower, it's not gonna bleed, it's gonna be nice. Um great. So now I can wash that and then dry it. Don't want it to be too wet as I go into some pink. Sorry, well, I'll just say red because it's easier. But you're basically trying to get the shadow of the clouds, and I'm just mixing a bit of that rose madder with the cobalt, so it just gives a little bit of purple. You can even add a little bit of yellow just to make it grey. The three primaries make grey, but just a touch of yellow makes that a bit more of a normal grey rather than completely purple. So that works quite well, and you can sort of just play around with adding a bit of these things in. But as I say, this is not about the sky, and I do appreciate that we've got a lot of fun to be had in the architecture, which will take up time. So just a little bit of that. There we go. Just some fun. Um, what's happening over here? Just just not too much water on my brush. I'm just going to let this melt down now, like that. And that should be fun. Now, just before you finish the sky, you just got to think, okay, is there any sort of glaring bits that make things look quite wrong? Is there a really strong straight line? Is there something that just shouldn't be in the sky? And then you can just get rid of it. But I am happy with that. It sort of seems to be okay. Don't want things to be too strong. And then we move forward. So where do we move forward? We forward into the landscape. So now this is wet, and you've got a bit of time because we've wet the back, or you're in a humid environment. You don't need to wet the back. Then good for you. Um, what I can do is I can mix up some of this green. So you can use any green you want. I'm using Viridian. Viridian is quite nice. It's a cooler green, so it's good for doing a background because it pushes the landscape to the back. So I'm gonna mix it with what I was mixing before as well. And I'm just gonna go in and pop some of this in. I might gray it a little bit. So how do you gray it? Well, you just add a bit of the three primaries into it, although less blue because it's already quite cool. But if you add a bit of like this red, that'll immediately gray it. Um, but essentially, you just want less color, so a little bit less color on the outskirts here, and actually maybe on the other side as well. So I'll just do that in together. But see how I really want to just get through the paper quite quickly, um, not worry about things too much. I can bring that down and up top, and then maybe a bit more of this strength in the middle areas, like up here. We're just creating some um, creating some contrast between the outside of the paintings, the outskirts, and the center. So a bit more of that, and maybe there's a bit of green, so a bit of yellow in that. See that? I've mixed it up. That's a bright. That's too much for now, but that could be useful in a second. I'm just going back to this green. Now, yeah, you can just, now look, see how strong I've done that. Leave a bit of space for this lighter green to be placed in there. And in the background as well, I'm just not going to be too bothered. Leave a bit of white sparkle if you want, but see how I'm quite fast and strong with that. It is a background. We might do a second wash if we need to, but for now, cut around the architecture. And for this, you can slow down as well, for sure. How are we doing? That's all right. We're gonna add some colors into this in a second while it's still wet. So I just want to see if I need to bring that up a little bit more. Maybe some of this light can just have some moments higher up, just to create some depth. And so it's not just a very singular transition. That's all right.
I hope you enjoy this video. I always strive to provide useful content for my viewers and students. If you're interested in delving deeper into watercolor techniques and painting principles, I encourage you to join me in my new workshop. We'll explore dynamic sketches and create captivating final pieces. So check out the link in the video description to register for free. I'll see you there.
Now, I'm already gonna place it here. And you can think about where else it should go. And there's some nice bits and stuff going on there. So just gonna blot it in a bit for now. Maybe in the background, but in the background I think we'll go for a different type. So actually, so I'm now just thinking about some of the foliage in the background. Now, when you want foliage to stand out less, just grey it off. Just put a bit of red in it, grey it off, but it can still be, you know, green. It can just be less strong. So maybe in the background you can see there some foliage in the background, and maybe around here interweaving, breaking up some of this stuff here, and then maybe there's like just a band of things there. I'm not too worried. So you haven't really cared too much about that brushstroke. Okay, so how are we doing? Maybe in here it'll also grey off a bit. Yep. Okay. Okay, we're doing well. Now we're getting into color. We've done landscape, we've done the sky, and now we want to do a bit of this color. Maybe you can even use what you've got and just a little bit of texture, just a little bit of texture, just in this middle bit area here that we care about more. Okay, now let's get into color. Color, we need a red, we need yellow, we need a bit of, basically we need a bit of orange to start with. And let's introduce a bit more of that red. And we need to get quite a lot of this. So I've added more water, which means I need to add more red and a bit more yellow. And if you have even more now, let's really get some going. Because if you can do that, then you don't have to mix as much, and it'll be quite nice. So that is good. Now I'll put some on this bit here, and I'll just put a bit of blue in it. Now that grays it off, as I said before. The opposite of the two that you're using, of the three primaries, will grey it off a bit. Now we can start by introducing some of this, maybe not too, don't make it too watery, but we're just gonna imply that there's like architecture in the background, and here as well, and there's a roof there. And actually this grey, it's not really, sorry, it's not really grey, it's sort of just a sort of more muted terracotta can be used as the undercoat for the bridge. Because it's a bit warm, but it's not too in your face, is it? So it will work as the undercoat, so we can pop that in. And actually we can just keep that going. But again, I'm just like sort of kissing with my brush. I'm not really trying to put too much, be too fiddly with the brush marks. And maybe this bit can be the undercoat of that. This wall is a bit slightly more yellow, so we can do that in a second. How are we doing? I can move this across, and maybe we can think about using the other bit that we mixed up, which is a bit stronger. And we can get into the furthest building. I have put maybe a bit too much of that red over there, but I'll yellow it off in a second. And we are just connecting some of these buildings now. We're gonna have to leave some white so that things don't cut together, right? We need to make sure that we don't touch this bit of green so that it runs all the way down through our lovely terracotta. So I've left a little bit of a gap there. And I'm just blocking in. Maybe we can have it even a bit stronger in the focal point. Something a bit more red, a bit more orange. We're just going to be getting in some of these stronger. Oof, that's strong. Okay, that should be good. Give a bit of life. It's quite red, this one. Making sure to leave a little bit there, just so it doesn't completely cut all of that green that's behind it. Some bleeding is fine. Like we can even bring it down and bleed onto this bit here, for example. I'm just going to take a little bit of that color away by using some of the more muted stuff and just bring that over. And we don't, when we're also we're thinking about how things are drying. We don't want things to completely dry on us, do we? So I need to also think about that. Bit of life here, bit of terracotta, that's fine. And there's a building, a terracotta thing there. But I need to think about this area here, right? Because I don't want that to dry on me. If that dries, then there'll be a mark, these marks down here. I don't want that. So actually, in the meantime, you can just break it down a little bit more. But let's get this one in. Just creating this color. Now I've left that bit, that bit, that bit, and that bit. And obviously this. And the reason why is because they're slightly different. They're sort of a bit more beige colors, and I don't want to make them too red because everything will be red, and that's not good either. So I've just left that a bit for now. Let me wash my brush. And I think most important thing, this green that I've already mixed, I can make it stronger, but I just don't want this to dry on me, these areas. So I'd rather just get a bit of green that I've got on my palette and just let this sort of merge together a bit. And there's not much water on my brush, so it's not going to cauliflower, or even if it does, it'll be very small. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got the green where I want it. It does come up a bit higher. Maybe you can do that. And it's mixing in with this, the terracotta. So shall I give it a bit of strength? A bit more yellow, a bit more green? Just a few bits of strength as well, especially in the bottom areas. So this is, again, the first wash, so it's just all about color. And maybe some up top there. Okay. And there is green at the bottom there. Okay, what else do we need to do? We need to put in some of this, bit more yellow, bit more blue. We need a beige. That's still a bit green, isn't it? There's a bit of red in that. Let's try and get this. There we go. When in doubt, just go yellow. So I'm going to block this bit in. It needs to be yellow. Okay. Again, I'm going to leave a bit of white just because it's going to connect too much. And remember to leave this white. That's fine, but and you can go into the shadow, but just leave a bit of white on top of that. There we go. Now, and we can do the same for the wall. Just, oops, one mark. Well, it's not oops, is it? I mean, it's a yes, one mark. And then again, here we're going to just come in with some bit more beige. We can keep that quite light. So we'll just come in and we've done the rest there. So the rest of this, I'm leaving a bit of whites here and there, and there's a bit of I think there's just a bit too much green on my brush. So what I'm going to do is get some purple. And then go into this building already. Worst thing you want is for it to be green. I think that will help a bit. And then in this as well, just one stroke like that. But we'll go in a darker bit anyway, so it's all right. Okay, great. So keep this bit wet as it comes in like that. And we have a sort of line now of activity. And we're going to think about the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely clean my brush. And I'm going to now wet all the water like that. You can even use a bigger brush, but it'll be all right. And it will just melt. See that? It starts to melt. Because I've just placed some pigment there. So, nice and wet. Now if you get the water wet and of the same consistency of wetness, if that's a thing to say. I just noticed that I've got this bit here. It doesn't really matter, but thought I might get rid of it anyway. And there is the spire, but the spire is being attacked by all this green, so I'm wary to ruin it by touching it with the green, and then everything just explodes. But maybe if I can be careful with a smaller brush, I can just sort of, and not too much water in it, so I'm drying it with that towel. Maybe I can just be careful and just indicate a bit of it. And yeah, feel free to leave some of these whites on the outskirts of this spire. There we go, a bit rough and ready, but it's come in. And you have yourself a red spire. Okay, so as I was saying, water down below. Now this is all wet. And we want to keep some light. It's important to keep some light. We're going to have some shadows coming down and things, but I also want to have some shadows at the bottom to reflect the sun, to reflect the sky. So I'm going to get some blue. Now this is blue, but I'm mixing it in with all the stuff that I've got on my palette. So that's a bit of green, that's a bit of red, and it's becoming a bit grey. You know, it's a bit more of battleship grey, which is quite nice. So if I just, so now confident brush marks all the way across, just giving a bit of that. So I've just done a bit of that, just all the way across. I have noticed I haven't gone up higher. You can sort of take the same amount and maybe go up a little bit higher like this, maybe up here a tiny bit higher. But I don't really want to do too much more when you like upwards wise, because I want the white to reflect, and these reflections will come down to, about here. So there is not even much light, so you've got to preempt that. But what I will do is, when this is drying, oh, see, I've mixed some Payne's Grey there. Really gone to town with this darkness. Now, I will actually, well, actually, I'll probably use the same brush, but I just need to dry it, and I don't want to completely destroy that white towel. So I'm just going to get a bit of tissue. Just take off some of the water on it. And while it's drying, we're going to go into okay, that was too dry. Just a bit of detail, like a bit of like this wave and ripples while it dries. So confident marks. I'm just attacking the paper, but very softly. Tender attack. And I'm just doing it not everywhere, but just a few bits, and then maybe bring it up. It can get a bit smaller, but just a few little things just to indicate that there's water. This is water, but we do want to keep some of that lovely um, white, because this is going to come down. If you get a similar sort of muddy brown, then please try it out. And also, you can put it down, and if it's not dark enough, you can just get a bit of your dark colors and add it onto it. And is quite a nice practice to do that, mixing colors on the paper. Okay, so I've just blotted in this bridge. I'm gonna try and keep. I can actually do the. Well, actually, no. Yeah, I'll just put a brush mark over that hole, as if there's something happening there, but I don't know what it is, which is the truth. And then we come in here. So that is already blotted in quite well. And I did that quite simply and quickly because I've got quite a lot mixed already. Now I can drop this bigger brush, and with a smaller one, which hasn't got much water in it, so I'm just going to dry it. Get a bit of dark. Maybe I'll get a bit of brown. So that now I'm using sepia. This is my dark. Sepia and Payne's Grey is where, if I want to get some definition. And the good thing about using some of these darks with not a lot of water is you can get quite a strong amount of pigment on your brush, and then it's gonna sit there better. So I add a bit of darkness there, and maybe a bit of darkness here, and we are. That wasn't quite circular, so I'll just scratch that out with my nail. That's better. Okay, so this actually comes down like that. So I'm going to create now the definition of the bridge, and just let it sit on the water a bit with a bit of darkness, like that. Okay, and this is all quite dark in here, but why not? Let's just go for it. Gonna get a bit of that dark that we used. I got a bit of deja vu there. What does that mean? I haven't had deja vu whilst painting. Maybe someone can help me out. Or maybe it means absolutely nothing. Probably. Okay, so I'm just thinking a little bit about the details. See, I've moved around my brush a bit, just got a bit of detail in there, with pretty much the same colors, just a bit of dark brown. And then I want this to melt into the existing green that's already there, and maybe I don't know if this can melt, or some of these bits can melt a bit as well into the background here, because you don't want too much. definition going on in areas that you're not particularly interested in. So again, there's background stuff going on. So with a smaller brush, I'm just sort of interested in getting a little bit of definition, just 1, 2, 3 marks. I've only done 3 marks, and already you can sort of see that you can feel like there's stuff happening in the background there. I'm not too bothered and about making it look like anything other than just busyness. Okay. Great, so we're doing well. What I think I'll do while this is still wet, this bridge, if it's all like this, all one shade, I think it's okay, but I just feel like I want to put a bit of blue on this side. I want to numb it down. I want to get rid of a bit of that strength there. So just with a bit of blue, which I'll just so I can show you where I put it. Oh, this brush is still there, so that's still useful. I'll just put it there. Bit of blue, not too much water on the brush, so if there is, just dry it off. And I'm just gonna go over this and maybe go over this line as well. It's too much of a strong line, so how do I get rid of this line? Well, just with my brush, let it just fall away. Maybe there's a bit of like things happening on it, I don't know, like that. It's as if it's sort of falling away into nothing. Because if it was just a straight brown wash, I just have a feeling that you would, you wouldn't feel like you're leading it anywhere. So bit of blue, kill it off a bit. It's a nice brown, but we want to save that for this area here. Okay, great. Now we move into the central areas. Got that brush there. Do I need it still? In a bit. Bit of brown for some more shadows. There we go. And we're going to do the brown of this spire. So I've really taken a bit of care there. It's not that dark. I'm not putting it in too dark. Maybe not as dark as it is in the actual photo, but dark enough. This is more dark. You can see that already, how much that just translates into this thing being in the shadow. And I'll bring this brown that I've got on this, and I'll just create a bit of some of that detail on the sides of these. And maybe I'll do that. And then maybe I'll put a window in there. Okay, so that's coming along nicely. I think we need to reintroduce some of that terracotta onto this. And while it's still wet, we can then go in with a bit of that brown, but make it a bit more blue this time. And we can bring in shadow like that. So that's coming in nicely. Now I'm just conscious that things are going to start drying. You can also give it a spray. I mean, we wet the black, so we wet the back, so we've got a bit of time, but good to just give it a little spray. I've sprayed upwards. and then let it just settle, not instead of spraying directly on it. Okay, what else? What's on my? I've forgotten what's on this. Okay, it's a bit of this brown. There's this sort of blue color. Which where now you got to think about where you can find that bit here, bit there, but we'll make that a bit darker. Bit of shadow in there. And a lot of shadow here. Cut that quite nicely. Now with another brush, we're going to do another wash on this, a bit more of like a bluey wash, like that, because it does need to be a bit darker, and certainly needs to be different to this face here. So, but if there's a lot more water on your brush, then good to not let it cut through everything. Okay, so let's get some more blue. So it's a bluey gray. We're going into the background a bit here, but it's going to be quickly moving into this lovely bit of foliage, and we can actually just do the shadows of the trees right now. So I'm going to get a bit more of this brown. So I'm mixing that. See how I'm using what I can from my palette. So I had a bit of blue-gray there, and I've got this brown mixed down here. So when I want to warm up the shadow, I just bring it down. And now I've got a bit more of a warmer shadow, which I can now use to create some light. Remember to leave some spaces. Don't, even though it might be thick foliage, always good to just imply that there's a bit more gaps there. And then when it comes to the bit here, just make that darker. We want to have more light on this side, and maybe here as well. Get rid of a bit of that. Okay, maybe a tiny bit of detail in this shadow bit area, but it's nice because it sort of melts in a bit. And this comes up with the same color. I'm just sort of doing the branches where I can. See that? And then you can add a little bit of shade on the green, but that's not important at the moment. What's important is to look back at what we've done and to see, okay, what's drawing, what's drawing, what needs our attention. I think we're doing pretty well. Bit of shade on this one, but less strong than what's underneath it. You can use the same to actually make a stronger dark there, and a bit of this darker terracotta mixed in with that on this side. And yeah, oops, that actually goes down further. Okay. And then the final building here. So final building, we got a bit of that grey, just that. It's sort of a warmish grey, just to get that top, just to actually just get rid of this color and leave that top bit there. So, and maybe a bit more blue this time, just to push it away. We don't care about this bit too much. Oops, not too blue. It's sort of just stuck to my piece of paper. Okay, here we go. And then while that's really just put on, I can put a little bit of water just to let it melt. And so this becomes a bit more, bit like that. Green, darker green. So maybe if you've got some of that grey, you can put a bit of green in it. I'm going to put a bit of yellow, a bit of red, make that brown again, and then have that green. So it's a bit, and actually maybe a bit of Payne's grey, make it a bit more dark. And just have some bits out of the sun, like here, for example. Just curve it round like a halo. And there's this weird line there. get rid of that with my finger. And the pencil's sort of shone through, so maybe there'll be a second bit, which I'll just put there. Cut that up like that in the background. Okay, so this is coming towards the end. We just need to put the shadow in, and then we'll do a little bit of detail, but I appreciate we've got 1 minute to do everything else. So yeah, that's not a lot of time. But I think we've done a lot of good stuff, and yeah, all we need to do is put the shadow in. That will make it sit nicely on the water, and then we can just put a tiny bit of detail in. Just, you know, where I've got the strong pencil, we can put a bit of black. Maybe there's a few little bits and bobs that we want to highlight. There's a bit of white there, but we can see what we want to do with. So, but basically the big shadows are done. You can see it sits well. The only thing I would say is maybe this now looks a bit weird. So I try to be smart by having this cutting it fading away, but it doesn't really work. So with my nail, just going to experiment. Maybe you can watch me do it first and see if I ruin it, but I think it'll be fine. I'm just going to scrape along it. That worked, and I've rediscovered the line. So, and maybe you don't have to rediscover it everywhere. So maybe I'll just with my finger blot it out in bits. That's even better. That's even better. Maybe a bit there as well. Yeah, that sort of works. Okay, now final big major thing to do before we wrap up with a little bit of detail and some questions. Is to now get a nice wash going on the bottom for the reflections, and we're just going to do this dry on dry. I mean, you know, wet on dry. We'll get some nice bit of a bead going for a bit, and then we'll just get some nice movement with our brush. It's important, and remember, it's dark, quite dark, sort of browny blue that I was talking about. So again, I'm going in with my red and orange foundation to make a little, sorry, red and yellow foundation. It's already got a bit of stuff on it, so it's already turning brown. Add a bit more to that. But keep on going with the blue, so make it a bit more bluey. And maybe in some other part, I'm going to make it quite a lot blue if I need to just introduce some blue bits. If things are just not really too different in different places. Get more red in that. Okay, so let's do this. Maybe I can add a bit of a thick layer of brown and Payne's grey, just a bit of warmth. Not too thick, but just enough so that it might sit on the bottom there in some of these places. Let's see where we can do it. Maybe here. Now the reason is it's going to melt, and if it does that, then it might look nice. So that's the idea. And a bit there, but I'm not going to do it on this side because I don't want it to be I don't want to bring attention in that direction. So I'll get more blue, and I'm just going to go for it. So confident brush marks, see that? That's, if you want to leave some white, you just lift up a bit like that. But I don't need to do that just yet. I'm just going to go a bit, and then maybe I'll bring it up into this a bit as well. And likewise here, make it a bit more muddy at the bottom there. I've lost that edge, doesn't matter. Okay. And already I want to leave a little bit of holes where there's arches, right? So I'm just trying to find the end of where this would go. But before I do that, it'll be wet for a little bit. So let's just chill out, Nick, and we can get a bit of this different color in there with a different brush, and then go back into it with the brush we're using. Where we think that there could be a bit of darkness. Okay. Bit of darkness, bit of light there. I'm just kissing. I don't want it to be too busy, right? So that's good for me. I'm not going to try and do too many marks. And then, okay, I'll go in a bit dark here for now, and maybe I'll add in some other color into it. Actually, you know what? Let's go red. Let's go redder. Let's go more red. Here, let's do that. It needs to be, yeah, it needs to reflect. And also, there needs to be a bit of that beige as well. Maybe we can just do that by having a bit of water, a bit of this yellow, and while it's wet, it should be fine to just add that in like that. Cut it in the shadow there. Okay. Right, moving swiftly on. Bring it down a bit more. Let's have a go. There's a spire there. And then we get into some of this lighter color. But we also want to connect this. It can't just, see that? Connect that nicely. Making straight lines, you know. And maybe some of this sort of green is reflected. So I'm not going to go green, I'm just going to go lighter. So like that, just light in the background. See that? And here as well. So, and then of course here. So a bit more of that light. And we can make it dark if we want, but and make sure things connect. Don't want it to dry on you and then get a bit tough to manage. And I'll go darker again, quite dark here. There we go. Get some of that darkness that I had before. Even though I know it's the most red in the photo, we don't want that. We want the red there. And this can just come down a bit further. And actually a bit of darkness will reintroduce. And that can touch the bottom. Great. And maybe there's a bit of stuff going on in the background here. But don't ruin it. Okay. Now, a little bit more dark, a little bit more dark. Where do we want dark? A bit in there. A bit in there. So this is wet into wet, right? It's already wet. I'm reintroducing some dark into this mix already. Now, I don't want it to be too busy, and I don't want to ruin this. So I'm just kissing the paper again. And to be honest, I think I'm pretty happy. Maybe just a bit of darkness here. Just so that, just to recreate that line. But I don't want to do too much. I think that's okay. I mean, yeah, you can go a bit more red if you want to, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is now think about how things are reflecting. Maybe a bit of light going into there. And this doesn't need to be, yeah, this can be straight. Great. Lighter lines just for the background image, but that's it. I'm not doing any more to that. Yeah, that is it. So the last thing to do is just add a little bit of this detail. So I'm getting the darkest dark, which is Payne's grey, and then I'm just introducing where I think it would benefit. So just a little bit along this line. So we go like that, and here we are. Not everywhere, but just in the main bit, just to get a bit of that detail. Straight lines here. That would be too dark, but a little bit, so dark grey for some of these darker bits at the back. not the full strength black that I was using in the front. No need to do that. Okay, we are very much nearing the end. If you have any questions, we have a few minutes. 6 minutes to be exact. Well, not really. We can stay a bit longer if you want, but I think 6 minutes would be good. So if you are ready to ask some questions or we have any, please feel free to write them in the chat and I'll try and answer them. While I just finish these bits and bobs. A little bit of strength on here maybe, but and now you're just looking for like what can be described as the jewelry finishing pieces, as Joseph Bookfish would say. And yeah, I can go on. I can make this quite detailed and all that stuff, but I think the magic of the light is captured there. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I don't see the need to do too much more. Maybe there's some stuff going on the beach a bit. Just to break up that line, this band of beige there, but okay. So bit of grayness just to give a bit of interest into this tree, which is quite a nice tree. So maybe we can give it some. There we go. Now it's sort of like coming out of that a bit, and then a bit more here. Just some definition to this, and here a tiny bit as well, but we don't really mind too much about that. Okay. So quit while you're ahead. Tiny bit of people, maybe. Maybe that's just, who knows if there's people or not there, if that's people or if that's something else. Maybe there's a person there. And that's it. Okay. Last thing to do is to put your signature.
I hope this video was helpful for you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel where we assist all individuals in mastering drawing skills and immersing themselves in the wonderful world of art. I'd love you to join me in my free workshop, so follow the link in the video description, and I will see you there soon.